life in general. So people are losing weight because they can't afford the cost of groceries. This is a real reality that a lot of people are facing daily, right? And I got a few different perspectives. Check out these videos, and I'll come back at the end with my commentary.
New data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York shows that about 1 in 10 families reported they're skipping meals as food costs stay high. And local food pantry organizers here in mid-Michigan say they've seen that firsthand.
The need in our community is great with the rise in inflation, the rise of costs of things.
Those rising costs impacting everything from gas to groceries. As it's led to increased demand for service from food pantries like the one operated inside of his church.
And we've helped over 1,100 families in just this last 6 months.
Polling data released this week from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York says more families across the country are having to make tough decisions, with 1 in 10 reporting they don't have access to enough food or have had to skip meals to make ends meet.
What's up, America? People don't have enough money and they're not buying as many groceries. That's according to new research showing that 61% of Americans have started buying fewer groceries because they don't have enough money to afford food. 61% of people, not 30%, not even 50%, 61% of Americans have started reducing the amount of food they're purchasing and reducing the amount of meals they eat because they simply cannot afford the food. Now, this is in the most economically prosperous nation in the world. But while our people are suffering their asses off, the stock market continues to grow to record numbers. Once again, like I've said before, this shows the extreme wealth gap that's growing here in the United States. And no matter how many hours you work, it's starting to become almost impossible. Around 65% of people or more are living paycheck to paycheck currently. And about 70% of you don't have $500 or $600 in a savings or checking account for an emergency. Now, this is becoming an absolute failure here in our economic system, benefiting only the very wealthy investment class, while the entire rest of the nation incrementally suffers more and more. Something needs to be done with affordability here. This is ridiculous for the number one economy in the world. It doesn't matter if you're the number one economy in the world if 99% of it goes to only 1% of the people.
I just saw the news tonight and I really didn't want us to come to this point. Major headline news. People are literally having to skip meals now. Oh, this is a great economy. Things are good. Have you seen the Dow Jones? The Dow Jones. If people can't fucking eat, when are you going to realize that there's a problem? The Dow Jones is up. Okay. But people can't afford to buy their medicine. People are skipping medicine. If they're supposed to take it 7 days a week, they're taking it like every 3 days, once every 3 days, or once every other day because they can't afford to fuck. We have a big problem in this country.
Within the last few years, I'll just give you the thumbnail. 80% of Americans say they have felt a notable increase in the cost of groceries. More than a quarter of respondents, 27%, who've noticed an increase in grocery costs, say they occasionally skip meals because of the expense. They skip freaking meals. In the United States of America, we have neighbors who are skipping meals that didn't happen before. Nearly a third of respondents, 32%, say they spend more than 60% of their monthly income on essential expenses, such as groceries, bills, and rent. Don't tell me it's a nail biter. Don't tell me this is neck and neck. Don't tell me it's going to come down to the wire. I don't know. We might have a photo finish. For the love of all that is holy, can anybody just freaking for once tell the truth?
Americans are going broke just trying to survive right now, to the point that people can't even afford to eat. 25% of Americans say they've skipped meals recently just to cover monthly expenses, which I thought was bad until I read a third of people surveyed say they've skipped medical treatment to focus on bills. Skipped going to the doctor. But it's all part of a growing debt crisis in America. More than 100 million people carry credit card debt. and can't pay it off. And honestly, it's hard to blame them when the average interest rate sits at 24%. And while you're drowning in debt, a new study estimates that banks have collected $2.1 trillion in credit card interest since 2010. At some point, the irresponsible spending narrative has to give way to the fact that modern life just isn't affordable anymore.
I skipped dinner this week to save food for my kids. I'm so sorry that our country has failed you. I think stories like this need to be pushed out. I think it's important to share these stories, and I think it's important that people see the struggle. It will show people in other countries what it's actually like to live here, not the propaganda version of America, but the reality. And I hope it will also show other Americans that they're not alone. I just think that this needs to be talked about more. It's shocking to me how many people from overseas are surprised by what I've had to say. And that's just me. I'm nowhere near the poorest of poor. There are people in these comments who, they have to live in cars or they're just homeless in general. I think the world needs to know about this. It's not doing Americans justice to just share propaganda. America currently is not like how it used to be. Compared to other countries, we're not doing great. Quality of life, garbage. Affordability, terrible. Healthcare, non-existent. Social issues, we're still dealing with things like inequality. Grapples with issues like pew-pew violence, income inequality, and a complex political landscape, which is basically set up to help us fail. Pause if you want to read more. Clearly, America is not doing as well as it claims to. We're not even in the top 20 countries for most of these things on this list. This is no longer the land of the free, and if we keep pretending like it is, nothing is ever going to change. And if things don't change, people like this will still be starving so that her children can eat.
Okay, so there you have it. So as you saw, you had a few different perspectives. I think the saddest one was the mom who had to actually pretty much opt out of eating, for that evening, just to feed her children, and like as a parent, I definitely would, without a doubt. But this is a sad reality that a lot of Americans are facing daily, and quite a bit as of late. The cost of food is rising, and I had a friend of mine say he was intermittent fasting, and he said jokingly, he was like, well, at least it'll kind of offset the cost of me eating out. And I said, man, but now when I came across this particular subject, I'm like, man, that's a reality for a lot of people, as of late. If you ever been faced with this this particular situation, man, leave a comment down below, and I want to hear what you did, or are you in this current situation right now? All right, I really appreciate y'all hearing what I gotta say, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.